Welcome to our tea party. We're drinking red and blueberry tea, and we have Peeps and sugar cookies that are iced with sprinkles. Yes, we're going to share a cup.
Why not?
Okay. So with this big announcement this week, I've been kind of worried about how people perceive the Republican Party. Not so much about the direction of where the election is headed, but maybe how people tend to, what's the word I'm looking for? Over-sensationalize things in the press, whether it be politics or...
They exaggerate most things.
Other news, right, yeah. So, with that being said, I was wondering what you thought about the different ideas people have said about who's going to be vice president and how that may determine whether or not they're going to vote for somebody. Do you think the vice president is really that important a position?
Well, throughout history, there's been known to have a few little, slurs. Look at Teddy Roosevelt, Johnson, and look what they did.
Yeah.
Not to mention the first one, John Tyler, I believe after Harrison died, after that 1 month. And when he became vice president, when he moved from vice president to presidency, they just looked at him and said, you just stand until the next election. He's like, no, I'm the president now. Until the next election. And he didn't even have a vice president.
I see what you're saying. So sometimes...
It can be.
When we're picking a vice president, we have to be careful because...
Yeah.
That person could very well replace the president.
Theodore Roosevelt once said that only thing that stands between me and the presidency is a bullet.
Oh.
And not too long after that, when William McKinley was shot.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind...
If that happened today, they would probably say that he might have something to do with it.
We need to pick a really good vice president now. We need somebody that would be able to work in full capacity.
Here's another example. Look at Ford. He's pardoned Nixon. He didn't even get elected. For either one.
Yeah, true.
So it does tend to kindle a mark.
Well, a lot of people with the Fast and Furious scandal have brought up Watergate, saying that this is Obama's Watergate because everything's been so covered up from the public.
Sounds more like the Teapot Dome scandal, but I'm not getting into that.
Well, I told you about how I felt about that. I agree, but anyways, just because there's a teapot involved doesn't always have to mean there's a scandal. Or lobbyists, for that matter, doesn't have to mean there's a scandal.
The reason it was called that is because the company that was doing the Watergate and Whitewater and all it was called a Teapot Dome something.
Right.
It was an oil company.
Yeah.
Because of the place where it was at, it was called Teapot Dome.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
That's just coincidence.
A lot of people had said when John McCain ran in 2008 it would be good for him to have a female running mate. I was a big person that actually pushed for that as doing his internet campaign. And
why not? Canadian has had prime ministers that's female, even England.
That's true.
England too. I just wouldn't call him Palin or Biden. We need a smart woman. Not just a woman.
Well, I think that they're both smart, but sometimes the public perception is that they're smart asses. Which, don't get me wrong, the Democrats have their share of smart ass women. Whether it be Debbie Wasserman Schultz or that Hillary Rosen bitch. But, as I said, it's neither here nor there. So, could we feasibly see Bachmann as president?
No.
If something happened to the presidential nominee?
That would be scary.
Okay. Too scary, huh?
Yeah. And it's not because she's a woman. I'm up for equality. Like I said, I'd love to see a woman dominate NASCAR. And I wouldn't mind seeing, I wouldn't have no problem with a female president.
So what you're saying is there's no Danica Patricks in the presidential race for GOP contendership? Pretty much.
I don't care if you're man, woman, black, white, Mexican. I don't care. Just, we need someone smart. That's it. I don't care what's your background, what's going on.
Right, a little less smart ass, a lot more brains.
Yeah, we need a smart one.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Well, then what about Paul Ryan? He's a smart dude.
Maybe too smart to run, that's why he ain't trying.
He's already passed the budget this year, which is something that we didn't think we'd be able to do.
Well, some people can be great doing what they're doing. Not all of them can be president.
That's true, too.
Some of the smartest men, even Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, he had an offer, he's like, no. Even though he was getting there, because...
That's true. And Franklin was an intellectual as well.
Exactly, he knew better. Even though Washington became president in 1789, he died a year later. But hell, that stopped other people, because he's been president. He's only been a president for a month to a year. So.
What about others?
What?
Okay, since you're more on the libertarian end than I am, then how would you feel if, say, Rand Paul, because he's the son of Ron Paul, what if he was asked to be vice president?
I don't know nothing about that guy.
You don't really know about him?
I don't even know how to spell his name.
R-A-N-D.
Oh.
But that's
Rand, like Randall or Randy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Give me a little background. I know
he's
Ron
not
Paul.
quite to the extreme as Ron Paul, but he would be a good person as like a constitutional model. Yeah. He's kind of like the Dan Quayle everybody wanted but didn't get.
That's right.
Okay, so we've mentioned Rand Paul, Bachman, Paul Ryan. What about Allen West? Could you hack a military person being vice president?
That's a mixed bag. I think the last one that was, well, there's been a lot of presidents that have military background. You talking about somebody just straight out of the military?
Well,
like Eisenhower?
I'm not trying to scare you into getting somebody from the military, but today Al-Qaeda took over a prison in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So when it comes to presidential leadership as being viewed through the scope of the commander-in-chief, we're having problems right now where supposedly Obama has got some treasonous activity going on. So this may be something that's really important, that we actually have somebody that's in the military that is in the White House, as opposed to somebody who had absolutely no military experience. They were just a community organizer type person.
Well, Clinton didn't have no military background.
Yeah, but
he was started on Bush.
I don't think Clinton at that time had to deal with the Taliban. I think at that time they were pretty much well funded and paid off by people who were sheiks over there, and they were kind of like his little war parties. It wasn't anything like it is now.
So it's like, it seems to me, I'm not trying to get in this topic, but all this Taliban, all this terrorist stuff didn't seem to start until Bush was in office. Was it because of Bush was in general, or did he start it, or did they decide Clinton was cool? And now
I would really like to ask somebody that lives over there on the other side of the world that question.
It didn't start. I didn't hear nothing about Afghanistan, Pakistan, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, terrorists until 9/11, and that was when Bush. I remember as a kid, Clinton in the 90s, peaceful. I know they had stuff going on overseas, them dropping bombs and stuff, but it was no war. We didn't get attacked. It was nothing. It was peaceful as hell.
Well, yes and no, because some people will say that give the religious argument that this has been going on ever since the Crusades, because there was land that was taken from people back then during the Crusades, and then ever since then people of the Christian faith have been defending themselves against jihad. But like you said, I see it as a focal moment in history when that happened.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that everybody was living in peace before that time, but there was something that definitely changed the dynamic of our relationship to people in the Middle East that didn't have anything to do with the common people. Maybe it was political, maybe it was resources, because people said George Bush was greedy because he bankrupted in the oil business 2 times, and they felt that he had too much of a lobbying interest in those other countries by going over there and rebuilding Iraq and things like that.
We didn't do that for Germany. All we did was occupy them, and they did it themselves.
Well, that's true too, but Germany has its own problems.
I understand. I know enough about Germany.
Yeah. Oh, and what do you think about this? I think it's kind of unfair. How people have stigmatized the Tea Party as like a neo-Nazi what is it Bill Maher says?
Teabagger?
St. Crackers Day and all that stuff.
That's for rednecks in the South.
Well, I mean, we might consider ourselves redneck royalty, but we still have sensibilities and intelligence about ourselves. So it's not quite, I think, what the media makes it out to be with people.
Well, they need to get their facts straight. There's a difference between redneck, hillbilly, and white trash.
Thank you. Yeah, there are 3 degrees of separation there.
Hillbillies are higher. White trash is the lowest.
Yeah.
It's like calling us the N-word.
Very much true. Trash comes in all colors.
That's right. It's got nothing to do with color.
That's right. Well, now that we've talked about that, I wanted to ask you about taxation and how we kind of fix this mess, because I see where there's like a lot of tax gimmicks that people have had. Like the next guy comes along and promises people pie in the sky tax benefits or whatever, blah blah blah. And I guess the way I look at it is you know, if you want more government services, you actually have to pay for them. And the big argument that was made this morning was that Republicans don't care and they're just going to cut whatever they're going to cut. Because we had that big whoop-de-doo last year, I told you we went through all those different things and saw what we could cut, you know. Well, I see it as, since people mainly use the services in their state to keep from the federal government going up on their income taxes, it may be necessary that we go up on our state taxes, because I've only been paying, I think, about $100 a year ever since I was 17 at the most for state taxes. And everybody uses, you know, hospitals, anything that has to do with food or family welfare services, all that's tied in with the state. So to me, if the county budgets are strained, the figure was thrown out this morning on the Georgia Gang that Henry County is like $10 million in the hole. So I think it would be wise if there was some flat state tax, like say 2 to 3% on goods and stuff like that, because people are going to spend money, and they would be more apt to spend money if they could see that they were getting the services they're paying for. Right now, we're having to pay all these taxes and people don't even see the roads paved, so they're getting pissed off. You know, do you think that would be a good solution, or do you think there needs to be, because some people are so far out there constitutionally that they think they can run a government without income tax?
Well, I don't really know much about taxes. That sounds good to me, I guess. I just know a few things about it, like one.
I'll tell you just a brief history. Taxation started right after the bank failures the last time. And they made an amendment to the Constitution to allow provision for income taxes. Now, if you were to ask...
I saw the income taxes around World War I to help them the war effort. And after it, they figured, what a great idea.
That was preemptive. The reason why they started it, though, was also to finance the New Deal. And see, like, haven't you heard them throwing that around? Oh, the Republicans' version is a New Deal, it's social Darwinism, blah, 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 blah.
It's funny how they say that now, but back in the 30s, no one bitched about the New Deal.
I know.
Except the rich people.
Right.
Sounds familiar, don't it? History repeats itself. All I know is we don't know how a great history with taxes in this country. Look how we started this country off. We fought against the British for the Stamp Act. Right after we become a nation, a whiskey rebellion because of that taxes.
Right.
Not to mention the income tax. We do not have a good history with taxes.
What era was the moonshine stuff?
Moonshine was basically prohibition during the 20s, so it really hit. The Whiskey Rebellion, right after this country was founded, after the Revolutionary War, was the first thing the new nation did was oppose a tax because of the relief of the war effort, war debt. So, and a lot of people had distilleries. Washington had the largest one in the country. Everybody got taxed for that. Just like in the 20s with the prohibition, nobody wanted to pay taxes on the whiskey. Right. That's why they call it Whiskey Rebellion. So yes, we know we fought against certain taxes, but it's our tax, and you have to pay them.
That's true too. I guess the way I look at it is it's like we have to have a much more efficient management of income tax that comes in for people that are able to pay income tax, because there's so many people who are middle class that have lost their jobs, and they said that there's still about 32 million people who don't have jobs now. Only states like Texas and Georgia are showing any signs of job growth, and Georgia's 32 in the world for GDP. So when they talk about the debt being 100% of the national GDP, states like Georgia are the ones that are going to pull the entire country out of this recession, because we produce enough goods in order to pay off our debts.
Yeah.
And we also produce enough goods to where we can go help other states when they need money or when they need things. And we have gotten such a strain on the federal budget that I'm afraid with people that really need the money, like a lot of people complained about Katrina and things like that.
Don't get me started on that.
There was a lot of things that people didn't tell you, though. That all those people were housed in Texas for months, maybe even up to a year after that. They were given free housing by the church. They were pulled out of those places. It was only the bad stuff that we were seeing on the news, not the good stuff that people did.
News showing bad stuff. Never
Yeah,
the good
what's
stuff.
new, right.
Once again. That's familiar.
Right. So how was that fair balanced, huh?
It's funny how they complain about taxes and this is embarrassing, but was Eisenhower Republican or Democrat?
I'm not really sure.
Well, in the time he was president, taxes for the rich was 90%. How do you think all that stuff got built in the 50s? The levee towns, the roads, the bridges.
Well, my
and
problem is
about a little bit. I don't hear no. I want
my problem is with the Eisenhower administration. We had the same issue that we have with the Democrats today with fraud and the rampant things that happened during his administration. So the problem is people are unwilling or reluctant to be taxed whatsoever when the money that they've already turned over has been misappropriated. I personally think that whatever we don't spend in defense every month, we can set aside $1 billion, $10 billion, and every single month from now until next spring, we can appropriate in states that need road project renewal. So then that way we're not getting hit all at once with a package of bills. Hey, all this stuff has to be paid right now.
It's kind of funny how we are with the military today. Guys like Jefferson and all that back in the day didn't want a standing army. After, of course we get together and fight when we're attacked, but he did not want a standing army.
Well, here's the thing you have to ask yourself.
Which we need.
The Taliban has a standing army.
I'm not saying that we don't need a standing army.
Yeah.
Today's day and age, yes, we do. But
so let me ask you this:
we got more weapons and guns and bombs than anybody else.
If providing for the common defense was the first priority of the Constitution, then how would you pick a president based on that respect?
Technically, the first one got elected by favoritism. Electoral College elected Washington unanimously. Everybody said.
Yeah, but didn't you think that Washington had his merits?
Oh, he deserved it. But nowadays they want to do it to people who are stupid as hell and don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Exactly. It's
a political thing to appease people. Like the young people really liked Obama.
Yeah.
Because everybody was so tired of Bush. So let me ask you this: I have a problem because I see that Romney